I'm glad to be the part of this fifth session, International Marketing for Logistics and Supply Chain. So in this particular slot, we are going to upgrade the version of new product development and as well as the version towards international marketing into the distributional channels and as well as a strategy to select the overseas agents. It is better for us to enhance and as well as obviously create the sequence of making it into a next level action so as to create the better prospects of distributional channel, which is bridging the gap between production and as well as the consumption factors. So it is as simple as everyone talks about a distributional channel, which is going to be the panel of all the core discussion, all the market discussion, which is free from user and as well as the channelizer discretion. So as of a consumer criteria is concerned, we can be the best level opportunity for making equal distributional towards understanding the scenario of availability and as well as managerial activities. So it is very clear and it is very self-explanatory to order to engage the gap between production and consumption, which is availability in the market, not by the user's preferences. So if the product is made available in the market, it is directed to the different supply chain procurements, different supply chain manipulations. We can enhance the data modulators, modifiers, and influences to play with data driven approaches. So it is as simple as every distributional channelizer today in the market is making a clear representation of how policy driven and as well as consumption driven process are happening today. So everywhere, wherever we go, wherever we iterate or wherever we test the trial run of the product, it is as simple as a product is available and a product is consumable and a product is producible. So these three distinctions has to be taken at most classification towards attaining the stoppages of new entry to the market. So ultimately, I must be the strategizer or the organizer for making hassle free or hindrances free products entry, which is the need of the hour today. So when I try to bridge the gap between these two criterion, I may get an option of production and as well as the replications of new distributional function. So on the whole, when I would like to prepare a betterment of making a sequential updated version, I may be in a situation to check the possibilities are well driven, well calculative, and well permissible in order to engage the policy making scenarios and as well as the criterions with respect to the differentiated platforms. And those platforms must be a predecessor or the conjunction between two different zones, and that might disturb or that might create a new venture between making each and every overseas agents, logistical activities, and making the trade fair and exhibition, which is meeting incentives, what are all the conventions and what are all the exhibitions. So it is nothing but as we pointed out in the previous session, MICE framework, that is meetings and incentives are being readily occurring with respect to the factors who are all the manipulators and the predecessors of these functions. So whenever there will be a communicational gap between the producer and as well as the consumer, there might be the problem of promotion, there might be the problem of lack of market mix, and there might be the issue towards lack of promotion and product exiting the market. So The way in which it is getting rooted, the root cause analysis of each and every product's failure is not only dependent on market, but it is also dependent on different levels of communicational channels in which the product is escalated to the next level of attainment. And that next level of attainment is distributionally affecting the logistical activity. And there, in case we are in the frame of getting exhibited in a poor manner. And these poor manner issues will make a clear cut understanding about how I'm going to rule the market and who is going to be the rules setter of the market. So, there in case, when I try to identify the differentiated factors of equal distributional functions, it is better for me to take away the identificational of each and every segmental process. And those segmental process might be in a situation to check it out in a differentiated way rather than clearing it in the next level of identificational matrices. So in very clear of identificational matrices, who are all the part and parcel of each and every communicational levels of incidences in order to increase the wholesome activity. I make it very clear. It is a wholesome activity in which we are going to trigger it out from the various dimensions. So, what could be the dimensional practice or what could be the levels of identificational practices in order to engage with the right manner of right communicational elements? So, how to communicate and how to engage the product's utility and the consumer's mindset with respect to the differentiated patterns and with respect to the differentiated elements. So, in the due course of actions, these might be the channels and these might be the preferences. Probably it might go for international distributional level matrix in order to engage with the next levels of futures. And those futures must be as a standalone discipline that includes both operational aspects and as well as a special focus. And what could be the special focus or what could be the special issue in order to engage it in the right pattern? It is nothing but making it into the next levels of futuristic version. And those futuristic version are also reliable, are also permissible in order to engage it with the right pattern. Engage it with the right pattern. Is my voice audible now, dear audience? Yes, thank you, thank you. Fine. So, with respect to the international distributional logistics, what could be the permissible elements or what could be the next level futuristic version in order to engage the operational aspects and as well as the incentive benefits, which are all inclusive with respect to the specific focus and as well as the advantages which could provide in today's international supply chain. So I make it very simple in order to engage with the latest platforms. Who are all the participants and who are all the better elementalization officers in order to engage it with the right pattern and as well as the right scope of business actions. So, so it is better to engage with the operational aspects and as well as a specific focus, which are all increasing in today's perspective of international benefits and as well as the specific focus towards making it to the next levels of supply chain. So, who are all the frontline elements of making it into the next levels of identification is as simple as making it as a fundamental of international distributional element. So, how a international distribution element play a vital role in making global promotion and global matrix. So, that matrix could be of identifying a right agent, identifying a right partner, identifying a right international logistics forum, and making these identification will give you a right channel selection in order to engage it with the right pattern of making it to the next levels of focus. And when it is nearing to the next levels of focus, it will give you a sure clarity on how international logistics plays step by step value promotion. And these step by step value promotion will make us to understand whether the global delivery and the global cohesiveness towards market is present or not. If not, I need to take a remedial measure to change the direction, to change the purpose, to change overall incidental elements. And those incidental elements has to play a vital role in order to stick on with global promotional mix and make it very simple towards attaining the real-time objective of each and every proliferated matrix. And that proliferated matrix is equally distributed on digital platforms and making direct contact to the consumers without any intermediary. And I make it very strong and I make it very simple. It is only on end to end encrypted way of marketing that is internationally accepted. Overseas agreements, overseas management, overseas marketing mix, everything has a strategy which is not corrupted or polluted by strangers like external agent. Don't involve any external agent to get part in your differentiated market mix, which is in turn affecting the global promotion mix. And this global promotion mix, if it is going to be that much levels of threatening element in your overall marketing value, that will break the supply chain and that will break the digitalization exposure because it is as transparent as the step by step approach of each and every communicational levels of market strategy. So those market strategy who are all implementers, who are all the adapters, and who are all the influencers of those strategy internally or externally will plan in such a way for the effective completion of international trade. So, by considering all these things, these are all the changes in climatic conditions of an organization, climatic conditions of a trade segment. I may not have the same good which is seasonally available, and that particular good will have a demand when it is seasonally available exactly 1 month in a particular year. And that particular product will have the international distribution and promotion in a rapid way because it is only seasonally available so that I may not get the product in the next month. So this month I have the maximum demand. This month I have the maximum trade events. I may exhibit it. I may promote it. I may enhance it. I may enlarge it. And those enhancement, enlargement, everything will make us to understand whether these focus will have value promotion. So whenever the value promotion is being instigated in this way, then it is being done in such a manner for enhancing the level by level executional practices, which is conducted as a trade event. It is igniting the young minds. It is proliferating the young minds, and in due course, it is going to affect the entire market, and that entire market is going to reach the top notch of promoting internationalization. And that internationalization is today's concept of enhancing various diversity in global markets. What could be the diversity? What could be the advertising and communicational practices? How I can indicate the communicational practices are eventually done in such a way to make sure that these advertising and communication are different modes in numbers. Whether it is reaching the audience in time or not has to be checked. Once after checking it out, what could be the checkout time for me to come out of this activity so that to focus on the next activity? It is as simple like whenever the modes of communications are indicating the advertisement elements, it is to be approachable, it is to be conductable, it is to be alterable. Then only we can check it out from the different pattern. If not, these patterns will be wrongly directed because of poor componency, and those competency is again delivered in the differentiated manner, and because of these competency fluctuations we may face failures, we may face wrong directions, we may face poor indicators, success indicators or functional indicators. And those functional indicators, if it is not going in such a way as we planned, because of too many activities getting into the reachability, and that is nullifying the external elements not taking part in the right direction. So these are all the things I need to take as a prior action in order to enhance, in order to take it out from the differentiated elements, for me to categorize it in the differentiated pattern and as well as the multifaceted pattern of making it into the next levels of action. So once after I do this, I may get a confusion. I may get a proliferated matrix, which may be in a poor situation to note it down in the differentiated angle, in the differentiated difference between markets. What could be the remedial measure for taking the elements on differentiated concerns? And those concerns might be in a situation to target it from the next levels of elements. So my question to you all is, how could a market characteristic is directed towards distributional channel in international markets? The question is very clear. How could a directed distributional channel in international marketing is characterized? So I need options from you people. Either it is option A, B, C, D. Again, I am making it very clear. All the options has a particular characteristic directly or indirectly. My question is, what is the direct answer or the direct option which is directly connected to the distributional channel in the international market? Yes, any options from your side? Option B. Fine. The producer sells the product directly to the end consumer without intermediary. So the same word I uttered, thank you, Mr. Subhash, and thank you, Ms. Kritika. So making it very clear in order to engage it with the right distributional channel in order to make the product sold out by the producer without an intermediary. So how an intermediary or how an intermediary concept can make use of this particular element is angularly or dimensionally planned in such a way to entirely plan these elements are characterized. So all the other elements are also characterized, but I need a pure understanding between how these plans, how these category and how these differentiated elements are equally analyzed. So my question towards equal analyzation, equal categorization, equal distribution is knowingly or unknowingly planned in such a way for making a distributional elements. So the right option could be of option B on understanding the lack of intermediary. So once after the lack of intermediary is being identified, I may throw you a next statement or I may give you a next instance of understanding the strategy. So how many strategies I do have and who are all the strategizer? Whether the strategy are effectively participating in the event or not. If not, what could be the problem statement? So once after the strategy is being given to you, what could be the remedial action or what could be the analyzation factor in order to distribute the differentiated elements and making it into the next levels of identity, and making it into an identity is a challenging task today because not everyone is in the particular situation to note down the identity in the differentiated matrix. And each and every identity matrix is not that much angularly done because it is having some equal benefits towards making it into the cycle. So, how many cycles I may be permissible to get into the next levels of digital marketing? Or if I'm not allowed in such a way, how to materialize the segments and who are all the materialization officers, how the materialization works out, and how to stick on with this. So these many targets and these many area I need to check it out. And after checking it out, I am very glad stating that a marketer today engaging in the part of activity, making it into the next levels of elements of series connection, and those series connection forms a chain on how these markets towards international analysis is being equally done. So when it is trying to maintain the equilibrium, I repeat it very clearly, when I try to maintain this equilibrium for a set of understanding between a memorandum of one company to other company, it takes some time for me to check it out, whether it is suitable or not. I need to make it as a clear cut understanding on how these elements are sticking on into a chain. So that role has to be maintaining on this particular factors of enhancing the scholarly elements, and those scholarly elements of enhancing these situation which are all not into the filaments, and those filaments which are all promoted basically into the new scope of understanding is hybridly connected. So hybrid learning also a part of it. And coming to next levels of understanding, it is bridging the gap of industry and academia, and mapping the industry academia gap. It is forming the chain between value chain analysis, and those value chain analysis is also connected to the futuristic action of building a better platform for industry ready academia, and encompasses the final selection of scholars like you people, reaching the market and identifying the scope of your business. So the scope of business, which is a value chain connected to it today, is angularly dimensionally connected to all the people involved in professional allocation. And these professional allocations are also well connected in enhancing the historical pathway of a product which has been come acrossing every day, every moment, and every cycle. And making all these things, I need a channelization in order to select whether the market is feasible or not. I need to choose from the four quadrant. And the four quadrants are in this way, right? From the channel selection matrix, I need to go for a market, product, middleman, company. So these four fragments or the components will have a suitability towards market determination. Whether the market will be successful in nature or failure in nature will be determined by the people who are all connected to the sequence, whether it is target oriented or perishable or financial allocated resources or like availability. Everything talks on these four frames. If I am strong in these four frames, as a marketer, as a logistician, I may think in a better way to avoid the middleman features, and making these middlemen not to participate in order to encompass my selection, assurance given on qualitative elements, and making these many segments is into the real-time analysis. And all these functions are all well connected to the possibilities of making it into the next levels of action. So together, whenever we work for overseas connection, why we need a gap analysis, why we need a support factor, and who are all the relationship managers, and making other managers to participate financially, qualitatively, operationally, and as well as tangibly. And these tangible practices has to be evaluated, and it has to stimulate the real-time scopus of business advertising agency. I repeat, the differentiated support, what we get, what we assure from the different people is exactly the market alignment. And those market alignment are equally when we analyze the gap between the establishment and as well as the suppose if a organization changes its establishment name or migrating from one area to another area, what would be the gap analysis provided necessarily compromising the support? If not, what could be the remedial measure? So these are all the things I need to take it into control for eventually planning in such a way to highlight the determinants of each and every practices. And those practices are also well connected to the participants who are all interacting in today's product's competency. And those competencies are highlighted from the differentiated factors and making it into the next levels of futuristic versions. And those futuristic versions are channelized in a better way, in a sequential way, in order to enhance it in the next levels of identity. And those identities are not equally done in a filamental way, and those filamental way is highly challenging today. I'm not exaggerating. Whatever the challenges we are facing it in the market is limited to certain iteration, and those iterations are making it into a series way, and that series way is eventually planning in such a way to stop, or it has a threshold value, and those threshold value will make a real-time understanding between equal dimensions and fundamentalizations of perishable, technical, and non technical complications. So, on the whole, when we plan in such a way, we may adapt to certain query, we may adapt to certain multi established performances evaluation. And those multi established performances evaluation might happen in certain area, and this could be the probability of that particular area. So, again, there is a query in the overseas agents. What could be the final or the destiny performance evaluation system from the overseas agents perspective to ensure the agent's utility towards advertisement agency as a product A. Product B will be on eliminating the regular communication. So these could be the end product or the end services. But how could be the end product and end services may plan in order to attach or detach from the market? So option C talks about justification, and finally it talks about gap identification. So what could be the remedial measure for giving you the purpose action towards these elements? May I get answers from you all? So what could be the optimistic solution for overseas agents management? Option D. Fine. So it is on identifying the gap between actual sales and targets to provide some necessary support or correction. Fine. So since it talks about the question itself talks about the performances, option D is the right answer. It talks about the evaluation of the performances. Thank you. Thank you to all the answerers. In the management of overseas agents and purpose of establishing a formal performances evaluation system, we need to identify a gap as in terms of scholarly events also. Suppose if you people make this paper clear, coming out with topmost grades, it is fine. But where does the outcome of the paper, what we are learning it today, is whole relying on is R&D. I need you people to publish an article on this particular area and make it cited to the most famous rubric system and most famous platforms, that too in free of cost. Journals are available. And final performance of a PG scholar lies only on research, not on Q&A, not on pen paper mode of examination, or not on MCQ pattern like digital examination. Apart from these things, as a teacher, we expect the students to publish an article stating that it is below 5% of plagiarism and making the performance evaluation system into the open, clean slate of making it into the real time application. So, when you try to apply it for the real time zones, then you easily correlate the elements and the variables which are all connected to the equal behavior between different logistics functions. So, the efficiency of logistics lies only when you make real time problems into real time solutions or real time research. Suppose if you try to calculate the research framework for your article with a sample size of say like 50 or 100, you may equally benefit on logistic efficiency with the help of differentiated shipments, methodology, capital investment. So these could be the variable. So what I could suggest you is by taking a long-term revenue plan, how to streamline the logistics, who are all the deciders and who are all the calculators for making this logistics efficient comparatively. I have third party, I have fourth party. When I compare with the third party and fourth party, what does the liability take away? What is the overall takeaways of each and every individual influences, whether it is an insider or the outsider, what kind of liability they are taking? So these many questions you need to ask from the stakeholders as a sample and make sure that the sample not exceeds up to 100. If it is between 100, make it as a common study and give it as a sample research report. And that will determine that you are ahead than the research problems and you are going to create a futuristic versions of logistics in the real time scenario. That is what the real outcome of any subject. whatever the subject you are learning, the final article what you publish, and if the article is published under your name and affiliation, that is what the real success of any scholar. Irrespective of a student becoming a scholar is what today's need for the hour. And being a student and understanding the subject, anyone can do, and that anyone can do can be possibly across all the departments. Justification they can promise that I can come out with very good distinction and grades. But becoming a scholar with less than 5% of scholarly article getting published without any furthermore review is what the real success in today's R&D's work. And that is what we are expecting our scholars to do. And I'm expecting the same from you all too. How inventory planning can be done in such a way with respect to R&D elements. So this frame, it is going to be the most important frame, international market mix. How the international market mix is ruling the market study today, and how it could be the broader perspective of organizational approaches today. And when it comes to critical evaluation, what are all the extended versions in which I can delay my failure? I cannot say I will not fail. I can postpone my failure. So today's smartness in business is postponing our failure, and that will in turn affects the internal communication and external communication in a vibrant way. So when you could have the smartness of postponing your failure, it is only because of analysis of international products and mix. How the mix is being planned. What is the percentage of contribution with respect to promotional and market mix strategy is all about. Whether the criticality in evaluation is done or not. If not, what is the strategy? How the strategy may change. Because in today's pattern, the strategy, what and all we are including, will have a new scope of action. And those action are getting into action taken reports too. So when I submit an action taken report to my superior will take a stand on how to enhance the ATR, that is action taken report, into the critical evaluation and make this ATR to be published as SOP. So when your ATR is converted to SOP, you will have surely a purpose of working over there, and you will be the change maker, and you will be the torch bearer to enlighten the overall outcomes of equal strategies which are all coming in and going out. So you can tally it easily, because development of an organization lies on strategizer. Who is going to be the strategizer in today's world? Competency is not that easy, because taking a challenging role and enhancing ourselves in the challenging role continuously for a say for an example decade of period, it is not that easy. How many of us are challengingly say that I stay in my organization for a decade? It is very rare. As an academician or as a corporate leader or as an individual who is working for my company, if I stay for more than 10 years in a particular company by facing lot of escalations or promotions in my roles, push or pull control, and stating all the stability and instability differentiated fluctuations, meeting all these out, and if I stay for more than 10 years, it is a huge success. If you take a survey, promisingly I say for every 10 there will be one. If not, I'm wrong. So 1 is to 10 will be the consistency of an employment opportunity because of too many practices what we adapt in both domestic and international markets today. And that make employees to come out and go out and fluctuate their positions as like a musical chair. And this particular employability skill is also getting affected in identifying the right strategizer. If I don't get a right strategizer as a department head, I may not be in a situation to promise a right international market today, because that will affect or that will promote the differentiated element, because meaningfully or non-directedly we need to have or we need to take some identity that The promotional mix is the direct mode of communication. Only if I have a strong promotion, only if I have a strong value towards my advertisement and other communicational challenges, I may give you a determination stating that this is my role, this is my inclusion, this is my criticality, so this is my value chain point. I fail in this, this is my strength. I can easily identify. So that consistency is both employer, employee, and as well as an establishment part also. Then only the market is stable. Without that, I cannot say the market is stable and market is advertising in very such a way in making the core pillar of international communication. And I cannot promise any kind of activity which is involving in a critical evaluation pattern and making all the pattern into the meritorious and demeritorious activity. And aligning with the international communication is also planning in such a way to fail or to succeed both sides of a coin. I cannot say it deterministically. And that deterministic value, what we adapt today, is not the final value because it is keep on changing. It is keep on increasing day by day. And based on the incremental values, I may not be in a situation to adapt my strategy across every competitive business platform. So this frame, what I show is literally the deterministic frame of equal balancing functions in market and making all the balancing factors in today's logistics. Will it be that much enough for me to analyze and select the distributional channel? I may not be that sure because those values what we see today might not be in that predominant element, and those predominant element might fail, might have longer control, might have stronger control. They will involving in lot of continuity and characterization. So every strategist must have some equal contribution towards direct or indirect control towards covering the differentiated elements of reachable distributional practices. I should take the role of distributor as a strategist. What are all the roles I could take? I should be the cost analyzer. I should take overall calculative capitalist activities too. I should know to know what are all the quality control elements I can enable. I should take the role of talent acquisition system. And then after taking this particular role, if I come back to the continuity or the continuous improvement or the global brander. So by taking all these roles, if I stay again, I'll come to the same problem. If I stay in my company for 10 years by taking all the roles, right from the low level role till top level role, I have taken all the roles. I know all in and out of my company. Then the company starts believing you in order to give you a global market task because you will enable the scale of global market task in such a way to uplift the overall functions in today's scalable and peak demand elements, which could be the peak demand element for my company. So as an academician, I may tell my peak demand for my company is valuable laboratories, valuable incubation centers, or valuable academic curriculum. So I may university professors to collaborate with my domestic professors to have a strong iterative study. So, and as an educationalist, we may plan in such a way to focus more on foreign collaborative university programs or mastering programs or skill enhancement programs. So, as a corporate leader, we need to enhance with other MOUs with the latest competitive brands and competitive countries plan. So, we need to equip and analyze that this effective collaboration will lead us to top notch for making the scalable practices. And those scalable practices will significantly serve towards degradation. And that degradation will help us to understand which is to be thrown properly and which is to be taken into role play properly. And that role play is most importantly what we are doing it today is well connected, well equipped, and well formulated for understanding the global market today's criterion. And that today's criterion is not that easy for me to understand whether the practices are all well connected to the better option. And that better option, what we zoom it today, might not be is tomorrow's problem. I may fail in some situation, and that situational practices will make me to go down. And the same activity will be taken prominently in the tomorrow's biggest idea, biggest solution, and that will uplift me in the next week. So in today's week, what are all the things I'm going to face will not be the tomorrow's week of problem. And those week of problem, what and all we are taking it with respect to the element is going to be on the tough task and the tough element. And that tough element will be done today for making it into a real-time understanding. And that real-time understanding, what we zoom it today, will not be equally benefited. And that equal benefited elements will be in a situation to note down the problem statements are not well connected. So I repeat strongly, this well connected or not well connected problems will be in a situation is promoted, is planned in such a way to make down these elements are not properly evaluated. So no properly evaluated elements are not connected to a particular sequence or a particular benefit, which is again in turn reflecting the market study, reflecting the elementalization study, and making the rules of differentiated elements are all properly, promptly connected to the direct host control. I repeat, the proper host control is the high control channel direct often intermediary coverages. And making all the intermediary coverages is properly distributed and making the intermediary distributor is not along with the middleman what we saw it in the previous frame. And those scalable and peak demand element has to be well connected for avoiding the degradation. And that degradation, when we try to avoid, has to be replicated, has to be thrown away without any pattern or without any differentiated elements, and making all the wholesome activity into the distributed functional problems. And those functional problems, what and all we had or what and all we were struggling to do so, has to be rechecked, has to be well connected for service degradation along with certain problem statements. What could be the certain problem statements we had today, and how I could enable the functionality in making the real time scope of business actions. And those business actions are highlighted permissibly in making some certain behavioral pattern. And better it is reachable or not reachable, how many times the ability of market channel can scale in order to succeed in the real time peak demand function. And those peak demand function are also correcting the trade off, how many times I'm going to meet the trade off as a problem, and whether the trade off is the hectic problem for a distributional channelizer or not. So, in this frame, we have more than 10 concepts to study. Number one concept is distributional channel officer, and based on the officer decision, how the cost benefit analysis or cost benefit quantity, CBQ or CBA, both are analyzed. Third one, how many trade-off we are going to calculate. Coming to the fourth one, whether it is controlled highly or low, control is there. Comparison between high control and low control. Fifth one, immediate recovery to be done or not. Coming to sixth one, how many continuity elements are increasing the reputation of the channel. Seventh one, what is the long-term plan for equity maintenances. Eighth one, global brand narration. I need to give a self explanatory narrative element for me to understand the long term equity damage. And coming to ninth one, what could be the channel scalable element? And the last 10th one is significant analysis of peak demand. So By understanding the four basic pillars: a strategizer, an organizer, a propagator, executor, these four pillars are going to hold these 10 variables strongly to understand whether this particular focus is operationally monitored or not. If I could monitor you operationally without a problem, then it is sequentially connected, channelizedly partnered, and globally addressed for long term plan. I may plan for another 5 years also without a lack of reach or lack of control. And that reach or that reputation, what we face: channelization, partnership, goals, industry infrastructure, innovation, and making it into all the real time scope of production, consumption, quality inputs, understanding the entire inequalities, and making all the scalable elements, and fulfilling the demands for all the justice what could be good for a market, and what could be better for market competition, whether it is transparent or not. If not, what could be the differentiated elements for best activation elements, best significant elements. And those best significant elements are not that well connected, but promisingly, it could be the better option for me to take a real time zone or real time calculation for understanding the behavior in the most implemented factor. And that most implemented factor may or may not reach the top problem functions, and that top problem functions may interrupt or may fail in such a way to eradicate the issues of differentiated elements. And those differentiated elements might fail, might trigger it out, or might take a real time study for understanding the differentiated factors of making it into the real time understanding. So, how a consumer protection or how a social welfare legislation can take part, and how many cases we are understanding, what are all the cases we take, how the cases are consumer oriented, connected, well connected for a better behavior, how the better behavior options are planned in such a way for making it into the real time understanding. So, whether all these things are planned in such a way for understanding the cases or not. So, those cases, those understandings are not planned in such a way. I make it very clear, not planned in such a way for planning, for mapping, for clear cut understanding of going with the focus on case studies. So, I repeat, rather than taking a research study or a case study for which you make a problem in order to make sure the problems are wholesome, restricted, and making the problem really updated for all the functionalities. So, let me throw a case study to you all people in the chat box. You please have a thorough reading of this case study. It is from the Consumer Protection Act 1986. So, post independence, what were the legal perspectives and what were the legal understandings in the cases were predefinedly delivered and judicially connected to lot of legislation activities which were well connected to the part and parcel of this element. So, which has been suppressed by state and other supremacy, who are all well connected for an international market, and what were the legal problems. And when we come to questioning area, it talks about the top court decision towards scope of services. Here also we talk about the scope, we talk about service, we talk about the deficiency, and we talk about what are all the judgmental factors which is increasing today, and making the real time understanding is not on consumers perspective and as well as the judiciary perspective. And those judiciary perspective is also to be noted down for a logistician. It is not that easy for us to understand the law practices and Consumer Protection Act practices. We have a national level forum, international forum, district forum, which is well connected by honorable judges who are the panel members of Consumer Protection Act 1986. And probably this particular act, what we go for, the various forums are all well connected to these forums for making a real time study. For those study, what are all the things we can plan or what are all the things we can elementalize is most important. So I'll suggest everyone for taking a bookmark of the link what I have thrown in the chat box. Make sure that everyone has a strong bookmark for your end semester preparation. And this reputation of international market with the lawful consideration is also promisable for taking the right direction towards cost benefit analysis. And knowing this, we may step into a new scopus of business action, and that business action will promise me in such a way to highlight the features and possibly connecting to the next levels of understanding on how behavioral sciences are practiced for a better scope of business action. And promisingly, business actions are not in such a way or not in such a way to connect how many times we may go for overall wholesome value, how many times we are changing the frameworks, and who could be the promiser for making the real time acknowledgements. And those promises are not in today's competition. So, how the promises are taking in such a way for making the right identifications of elements, and those occupational practices or the hazards what we face in a market is not in today's competency, is not in today's rivalry, competitive rivalry what we are focusing on today. And those rivalries are notable and permissible also. And making all the criteria into the real time understanding, I need to know how many operational deficiencies are there, how many habits has to be taken from the external individual, how a leader could be, how a marketer could be, and what are all the patterns of production, how a better way of connecting the labor problem, or from the inflation and the deflation dynamics. So, how many types of dynamics a market could have, how many trade offs a market could have. So, these trade offs are also possibly well connected. So, for a trade off agreement, we may have other possibility, those trade offs. So, this particular cases are also connected to most important analysis of taking it from the real time understanding. I repeat, those real time understanding are also to be highlighted from the international dynamic and as well as trade off practices. So, for trade off, let me throw another case study to you, and that trade off will also make use of understanding the behaviors and as well as the market study from the individual behavior. So, how inflation dynamics is planned in such a way to understand the peak demand. Since we talk about trade-off, trade-offs are also equally benefited. So, I have given two cases for you people. You can take a thorough reading of two cases. One case is on how Consumer Protection Act enables the market study. The other case is all about inflation dynamics and policy trade-off in Indian's economy of markets perspective. So, taking all these case studies, why we need to take a case study from the PG scholar perspective is to understand the supply and as well as the driver of market. Who is the driver of market today? What is the policy and inflation practices we stick on with? How the distribution impact is highly inflationally and deflationally connected to the political economy today. So the economy, generally we cannot say a general economy, it is a political economy today. So how many political economies we have with respect to the logistical activity? So that's what the discussion is today. So with this, let me close the session. So have a thorough reading of two cases and make sure that you are giving your perception. It is not like a Q&A. There is nothing right or wrong in case. It is our perception. So try to give your perceptions and try to discuss with your peer members and make sure that you are taking some important takeaways or there in cases. And we have further cases discussions in the upcoming classes as well. So for this session, you please have these two cases. Make sure that these two cases are connected to our international marketings as well. So with this, let me close the session. Any doubts from your side? The session is open for doubts. I have shared the slides also. So totally three links in the chat box. Please bookmark the links. Any doubts on today's discussion? Thank you. Let me close the session. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, sir. Thank you.